not just being a researcher here, and it's the only thing you focus on. There are all sorts of impacts going on. So it's sharing the reality, if you like, of being engaged in the process like this.
What do you think about the meaning? And I think with the YouTube channel, mails, SlideShare, photo page, because it's a story. It's another.
Yes, I know. Well, you know, YouTube goes around the world, of course, so you have to be careful what you put on it. But as long as you're confident that everything you've done, whatever you want to go on YouTube, why not?
I don't know. I ask you because you are really.
Well, I mean, it can be very effective if you're doing a short film of your findings and your journey, or Conchita's journey. Conchita's journey. And
you can visit her channel and you have a lot of information. If you want to research more about what's happening in her class, you can visit the channel, for example, or the. Okay, but
so what is this? Emails?
Emails between she and me and the other people, but
if you did a film to go on YouTube, would all these things be integrated, or are you just
it's
doing
not a film? It's all the films they did it about their class in all the time. And
I see. You can just show them raw data.
And the SlideShare, more details. More details. You read and say, for example, and we did it one project about that, and you say, oh, what's that? If you are interested, but perhaps you know.
And you push the button, more information.
Yeah, more information in another way. It's not on paper, obviously, because it's in your century.
Okay, so how are you going to write up this methodology? And what do you think you're doing here in the nicest possible way?
That's the important question.
I mean, for example, have you done a case study of Conchita? Have you done a case study of your research journey? Have you done a case study of how trying to empower a teacher impacts on the researcher, the teacher, the family and the community? Or all of the above?
I think it's a picture, only Conchita, but all is integrated in the second part, but all together, because all is necessary, but the focus in Conchita and what's happened with the feelings between person and teacher, and the change. The change is the empowerment and the feels. You feel better with yourself and confident,
and therefore you're a better teacher. Okay. So, so if somebody from Mars said, what's the methodology you chose to do this thesis about this teacher and how their feelings give them more confidence and that impacts on their practice, what would you say?
It's difficult to explain now.
Yes, I know, and we're working in a different language, but people who read these theses like to know.
I'll try.
Because you have
I think at the end of the third part in my professional life, and I think it's a present to come back the personal life and professional life. They were really very rich together. And I think now, with this thesis, if I am really honest, to be honest with me, I need to write something for reflection about the world around me, not the world, around me, what's happening. And I feel now I was really very happy in my teaching life because feelings and people, but firstly the kids, they were my teachers in my life. and perhaps if I write a very serious thesis, but in a for all the public,
very accessible.
That's great. I think it's only I have in my hands now.
Yes, I think that's all fantastic, but I think you've answered a slightly different question. I think you've answered a question I didn't actually ask.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great to do all that, but I was asking how you would describe the methodology you chose for your thesis.
Very clear. I think in a very clear points say, well, I think it's better if you put your focus, they write their feelings in a very relaxed way, for example. They have time and in a okay.
Yeah. Okay. Still not quite getting what I was. For example, some people might say, well, look, my thesis is mainly I'm using a quantitative methodology, and I've interviewed 200 people and X, Y, and Z. Or some people might say, well, I've chosen to go down a qualitative route where phenomenology is quite important because I'm interested in the feelings and understandings people bring to the study of the matter.
Perhaps anthropology and with this part, I think is social change.
Critical social. Yes,
yeah,
okay.
I think it's this way.
But it's also partly interpretative too, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess it is more an anthropological style. I mean, you're not doing anthropology.
Not exactly. No,
you're
exactly.
doing
No, in the way that you describe here.
Yeah.
But I think the best point is this part, no? The criticism, social
science. Yes.
Yeah, because we think around the conversation about that part and what's happening. What do you think about it? How change or you are not agree with the books, for example, and what's happened with your book, this book in your class, or what's happened with the families, feelings, not always in...
But I think you're also doing a case study in a sense.
Yeah.
Of the impact of teaching and this new... can I get this word?
Blogmaniacus.
And the blogmaniacus. And so you're doing that, and it might have a critical social science edge, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And you're using a phenomenological approach to interviewing. That's all I'm talking about. Are you talking in this language when you're writing your methodology?
We only put together all the information, the ideas, and what's happened with the last change about the empowerment, the last point.
Yeah.
Only in this part now. And I think the methodology is how to put the information in your hands in the best way, and I think perhaps is working together, me in looking your blog, and you write and look, and when I change my role, looking the blog, and sometimes put inputs, new inputs, and put my notes. And then what's happened? I'm not sure what's the right methodology, and I'm reading, and I think the best is in that point, not exactly anthropologic, but some ideas, because I put inside in the context.
In the context, yes. I mean, the context is, can be seen to be different. And I mean, it's a little bit like the way I describe it is the Russian doll syndrome. You have a person, a teacher here, but they don't sit independently of a class because they teach children. Mm-hmm. So sit because they have families. So they're located in their family, and the families are located in the community. Yeah. So we've got 4 different contexts.
Yeah.
And there's a sense in which and I think that's a useful way to describe it, and there's a sense in which that they are, you are looking at the impact of all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could-
in terms of how it affects teaching and teachers, which in turn affects the children. I think it's more for the university. I mean, if you want to get
Yeah.
a PhD out of
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
if you do,
Yeah,
then
I do, obviously.
if I'm an external examiner, and I won't be because my Spanish isn't really good, but if I were, that's a question I'll be asking,
Yeah.
which is why I'm asking you now.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I need to put in clear my ideas with you, and now I think it's better because I have the same idea you say, the
Russian doll.
the Russian doll.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's the now how explain?
Yes.
Because I have a lot of information, but only I want a point of view and
Yes.
one line very
Well,
clear.
yes, so that every
And I
chapter
think
you
it's
write
design
connects to it.
and a little part,
Yeah.
some parts only,
Yeah.
very little
Yeah.
of anthropology, but only in you put in the
Yeah.
context.
No, I think what you've been describing to me a lot this afternoon is the process you've been through and the kind of dialogues you've been having and the information that's coming out and some of the findings. And that's all good, and you can write a lot of that up as a journey, as a research journey. All I was suggesting that at some point in the thesis, one has to step back a little and put it in the language of
Yeah.
academe, that's all.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
that's what they expect.
Yes.
I mean, it's sometimes possible to get a thesis accepted as a novel, but I don't think you're writing a novel, are you, entirely? You're maybe writing parts of a novel, of a dramatic dialogue,
Yeah.
or you're using pictures as part of communicating what's going on in your journey, for example, or collage or whatever. But you're not writing a whole novel. I do know a student who wrote the whole thesis as a novel, and it was a very good writer, and he did really, really well. But the external referred it, sent it back, saying, you know, this is great novel, but this is an academic piece of research, so at least you have to argue the case, give me a methodology chapter.
Yeah.
Give me a methodology chapter that argues this is the best way to write this kind of story.
Right.
Okay, that's
You
the
know,
question.
so he
Sure.
went away, and that's a kind of question I'm raising. You know, they will say, in English we would say, what's the warrant for that? Why should we believe you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's your methodological underpinning?
Mhm.
Okay.
What underpins it? So I'm just saying that I imagine it's true in Spain, knowing a little bit about the Spanish world, that they might want a chapter something like that, where you explain that.
Yeah.
Or what you're saying before about communicating, accessibility, fantastic. But give them the
Information
Justification.
about
The academics.
give them the justification for
Sure.
it.
Okay.
Give the justification for it.
Okay, thank you. It's
Yeah.
very good
Yeah.
information for me.
And that's why I'm
because-
doing it. And
that's
for,
the
you
point.
know, for an outsider trying to grasp what you're doing in a short time, I'm just trying to say, well, where's she coming from? You know, how would I conceptualize that as a methodology? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you very much. I understand you
Yeah.
very perfectly well
I mean,
because it
so-
was my
See, for,
question.
yeah, so for instance, you could forget about, you could, I know you want and have a critical social science edge, so you're challenging the social structure
Mhm.
of how academe and teachers talk to each other. So I can see that. But another way you could conceptualize it is as a straight narrative of the impact of increasing teachers' confidence through feelings and teaching on the students and so on and so forth. So you could conceptualize it entirely as a narrative.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be a combination of these things. So. And it could be conceptualized as a case study. In one sense it is case study within different contexts.
Yeah.
So,
But thank you very much because now I'm
Yes,
clear.
yeah.
I'm clear
I mean,
because
because
that's my
there's so many things going on here, and I'm just trying to say,
yeah.
And it will be a challenge if you write all this up in this way, with, you know, bits like a novel and a narrative here of you, and with pictures and poems and audio visuals and YouTube. I mean, it would be a bit of a shock to the Spanish academe, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
That's the point. You understand me perfectly. And I
You know, I
thought
mean,
I need a methodology very hard in
Well,
academic
exactly.
way
You need to-
because
yeah.
they cut my head
Yeah.
immediately.
well, exactly. No, exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
But
So,
I understand you perfectly well now.
so what about, I mean, and how goes along with this? Does he know what you're doing?
Well,
Good question.
well, now I am clear here in London, but now I travel to Spain and, my God, well, and write to Angel Perez and say, well, I have my meeting and I have to meeting with you. Perhaps we need to discuss about my hard chapter, because the other one I am clear, but the methodology and you I don't know what's happened, and perhaps
Yeah, and I mean, of course, also, I mean, to use big words, which they think they like, these big words in Spain, I mean, you're using primarily a subjective epistemology. The way we come to know. I don't use that word very much. I don't like those big words, as you probably gathered from the way I write. But sometimes people like those big words. I mean, for me, epistemology simply means how do you know something, and what kind of knowing do you value? And if you value how people feel and how they come to know things, then it's a subjective epistemology. That's
I thought my thesis is in two parts. One for academic person, all the people, you know, when they listen to you, and the other part for all the people. And I thought perhaps the story is for all the people, and the other chapters for the academic people. And now I am clear, because you explain very clear what I need, and obviously I put there. For example, I have used this part in methodologic between this and this and this and this, and I thought this is the best way to put information, and this other part I did it.
Well, I think I'd encourage you to try and get conceptualize the methodology that incorporates everything, and not say this bit does this and this bit does that. If you can find a way to write about it that has a coherence. Otherwise it will be too bitty. Because you've got so many different methods there. So you have to have a coherent methodology into which these bits all fit. So be careful, not to sectionalize it too much. And I mean, there are different audiences. I mean, people say you should write for different audiences. It's very, very difficult to do that. To write. I mean,
the story is very easy now. No, not was easy at the beginning, but now I think it's easy to read for all the people. But if you put the other chapter in a very academic way, perhaps the professor, they feel confident.
Oh yes, exactly. Well, exactly. So you
only one chapter.
Yeah, so you have to justify it, etc., etc. And what about things like literature reviews? I mean, what literature do you draw on in this thesis?
Yes, I have a lot in three parts. One of them is the neuroscientific way, because I think the feelings and emotional. Well, the other part is what's happened with the names. Sounds a lot. For example, Circle Robinson or all the people teach in YouTube. I think they give conference, but in all parties in YouTube. And what's happened with in Spain, more in Spain than abroad. What's the gurus in the fix with web 2.0? For example, Jordi or because Conchita is in Spain and she reads and listens people in Spain. And what's happened, for example, Telefonica and reports, or your work. I have a lot of reports and I research a lot about that way.
The other a question for me is, are you looking at any of the teacher action research literature? Do you think you're doing action research? That's another kind of methodology. Or not. It might not be. You are researching a teacher's impact on her teaching. But you haven't intervened. You haven't set her up to explore something in her classroom, which you then research or she researches. You're not doing that, are you?
Okay.
There's a question that where you, as an outsider, because you're a researcher, might be supporting a teacher to do her own action research, in which, in this case,
I think she did, yeah.
would decide, well, I really need to study the impact of this kind of work I'm doing on the girls rather than the boys. So she sets that up as something she's going to research herself. And then she talks to the students and she talks to the boys and she watches what she does. And then she says, oh, well, that didn't work terribly well. And this is the reason. So I'm going to change that another time. And she does another cycle of action, because the research must lead to action in the classroom. That is action research.
With Conchita, because we have
but it's not. But you are doing the research as an external researcher. You're not, and it's not leading to direct action. In Conchita's classroom.
We do a special activity in our not only with Conchita. Is 3 and 1. Is 3. You criticize all the time all the activities or yourself about 3 things you think are really very well, for example in Excel or in Paint, and 1 you need to change, because if you do
are you telling her that?
But you think about your you have in this moment, for example, about the painting, and you look my paint, you say, oh, I love your colors, for example, and I am really not good in colors, and say, well, you better, because I tell you something good for you. Oh, you are really very good in colors. For myself, it's really very good, because I think what I need to change the next time, put the color better, because this one. And 3 things, you feel really very confident, and at the end, only 1 thing you need to change, because they put here, and only put the gap is really very short, and you feel confident. And this part is all the time we put in a cycle to change, to think how to change immediately, and say, well, at the beginning only 3 and 1, and now Conchita all the time. Look and look and look.
So is that deliberate? Did you deliberately intervene to do that?
Yeah, I deliver at the beginning, but now they change and they write about their changes and say, well, the next time I need to change this behavior with the kids, or I need to change about the textbook, or I need to change with the families, or sometimes other teacher told her, for example, you need to change because that kids is not the problem is the family and the content, and you be patient and what's happened. And she wrote, for example, one day Jesus wrote me about the, and now I feel how I have changed in my, I have a lot of details.
Well, you've got a lot of data there.
I
got 3 PhDs, it seems to.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I think now it's clear.
Oh, well, you can always drop me a line. What? Any other questions?
Not now. Not now.
Okay.
Not now, because I think I am clear. I need to research about it.